Hey, what's going on everyone? Richard here. I want to apologize first for the sort of clickbaity title, but I promise this video will answer that question by its conclusion. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the state of Killing Floor 2, where I think it's headed, and what feedback I can offer to Tripwire Interactive. But before I can do that, let's all take a super brief look at the history of Killing Floor 2, just so we're on a similar page. KF2 was initially announced on May 8th, 2014, and was released in early access nearly a year later in April of 2015. The game remained in early access until its full PC and PS4 release in November 2016. It was later released on the Xbox One 9 months later, making it available on pretty much all the most popular gaming platforms. However, prior to its release, Tripwire did add cosmetic microtransactions into the game, which, to put it mildly, upset some of the community. The justification behind this was to provide long-term financial support for the game and allow for a continued stream of new content to be added. Keep this in the back of your mind, as it will be important later. The game saw a fairly consistent average of around 3,000 concurrent players on PC until around June 2018, when it saw a large spike in active players. This coincided with the Summer Sideshow event, which added a slew of new content, and the controversial weapon upgrade system. It even saw a further spike in players during the 2018 Halloween and Christmas events, hitting a peak average player count of 11,218. While 2019 spring and summer updates brought a large number of players back into the game, the most recent Halloween and Christmas updates have failed to impress. So that brings us to the current state of Killing Floor 2 and its player count, which has been holding an average of concurrent players just under 4,000 for the past quarter. Compared to last February, the game has roughly 1,000 less average players and roughly 3,000 fewer players at peak. Just looking at the player counts on Steam over the past year or so, and you can see a noticeable drop in activity. While there is a lot of speculation on why this might be happening, from my experience and from what feedback I've seen from you guys and other portions of the community, I think I have it boiled down to a few possibilities, or maybe a combination of them. My first hypothesis is the lack of substantial content updates. While the game has been around for several years, I do not think it has reached a maturity yet as far as refining balance and perks. The only major content updates come seasonally and usually only include a few new weapons, a new map, and perhaps a new game mode or major balance change. Well, that was fine then. The Halloween update of 2019 and beyond saw a departure from this convention. While it released a new map and 3 new free weapons, they were all reskins of other weapons already included in KF2. They did release 2 paid DLC weapons, but each had a hefty price tag of 10 USD. While the weapons were admittedly fun and interesting, there's no questioning the practice of charging such a high price for DLC weapons was rubbing people the wrong way. This, plus the cosmetic microtransactions, only made things look worse. The Yuletide Horror update did not do any favors for the game's image, adding 2 more reskinned HRG weapons and 2 paid DLC weapons. The map released with the update also fell short, being a brutal and unrewarding experience to play in. At this point in the game's lifecycle, complaints about balance issues among perks and skills were hitting a fever pitch with veterans of the game. While KF2 seems to be balanced enough on lower difficulties, higher level play suffered immensely. As a result of this, among high-level players, a strong meta around a few specific perks and weapons began to form. The Gunslinger, Commando, Sharpshooter, they all seem to be the most optimal choices for large Hell on Earth games. However, perks like the Survivalist and Firebug have skated on thin ice for a long time, since they do have fundamental flaws with their design. While some attempts were made to remedy this, the Survivalist especially just felt out of place and almost tacked on. Some perks just have borderline unusable skills, like almost the entire right side of the Demolitionist skill tree, or line them up for the Gunslinger. To Tripwire and Saber Interactive's credit, they have done a reasonable job of implementing fixes, but they have taken a very long time to do so. Another controversial choice made by Tripwire was to include Edars and Riders in the game as enemies. Both feel out of place in the universe, especially Edars. Not only does it make no sense to have Zeds wearing cheap and cheesy armor or have robots with missiles and lasers chase you around, but it also drastically changes the gameplay. Edars especially will take an incredible amount of punishment unless you're able to precisely hit their tiny little chest core. While yes, Killing Floor 2 is its own game, some of the creative choices make too large of a departure from the original. Another thorn in Killing Floor 2's side is the weapon upgrade system, which has probably needed some balancing or a complete overhaul for a while. Not only does the mechanic make certain weapons hilariously overpowered, looking at you tier 5 Dangles, but it also disrupts weapon balance. Prior to summer 2018, every weapon was balanced around its cost and weight. However, thanks to the wild inconsistency of the upgrade system, not all weapons upgrade equally. When I say this, I don't mean slightly unbalanced, I mean some weapons are completely pointless to upgrade. The flamethrower and caulk and burn are the best examples of this, as the upgrades only provide minor damage bonuses. Plus, most of the damage from these weapons comes from DOT and ground fire, not direct damage. So I think I've made a roughly complete list of most of the major complaints most people will have with Killing Floor 2. I know I'm missing a few things, namely martial artists, but that might be its own video entirely. While it is pretty easy to pick on Killing Floor 2, it is a game I genuinely enjoy and want to see succeed, so what recommendations do I have for the developers? First is to focus on getting things balanced for higher difficulties. Veteran players will make up the core of your player base, and most casual players will be at worst apathetic to changes like this. Breaking up the meta and making other perks more viable will add a ton of replayability. While I'm admittedly not an expert on all things balance related, talking to your hardcore community, those who play Hell on Earth and controlled difficulty, will probably yield the best results. Second, try to keep a coherent vision in mind when developing new content and enemies. EDARs and the elite enemies all seem out of left field for me and most of the older Killing Floor 2 players. While it is fine to push the game in a new direction, gradual changes will probably get you less pushback than a knee-jerk shift in momentum. Third, and this is an easy one, slash prices on DLC weapons. No one wants to pay $10 for a gun. Not even PlanetSide 2, a free-to-play MMO, charges that much for weapons. Maybe $10 for a pack of weapons or 2 for $8, but the current DLC weapon prices are absolutely terrible. Finally, make new content feel new. King Fleshbound, Abomination, and HRG weapons all feel super lazy and half-baked. It seems like one of your designers just scaled up a model of a bloat and added armor and said, yep, here you go. And look, I'm not trying to beat up on whoever made him, obviously it probably took a lot of talent, but to us, your community, it felt like a cop-out for something interesting and unique. So coming back to our initial question in the title, is Killing Floor 2 dead? Well, I don't think so, at least not yet. There's a lot of potential for the game, especially since at its core, it is a functioning and fun game. However, I do think at minimum, it is approaching death's door, and the next few updates are going to be critical for the game's success. Unfortunately, I can't see what's going on at Tripwire's HQ, and perhaps a lot of what I'm saying may be off the mark from their perspective. Either way, I think it's important as a community that cares about the game, we voice our opinion and try to get the game back on the right track. If you guys have anything to add to this, please let me know in the comments below, or feel free to bring it up on Reddit or the official Tripwire forums, as that does get a lot of visibility from the devs. If we don't say anything, the game will not get fixed, and I'm sure the devs value your feedback. Anyways, thank you all for listening to my rant/analysis of Killing Floor 2's current state. I promise all of this comes from a place of love. If you guys like my content and want to hear me ramble about video games some more, consider subscribing or becoming a member of the channel. Also check out the community section to vote on the next video. But until then, happy hunting.